Perfect. So, welcome back on this amazing automation DIY course where you're going to learn automation to automate your business processes yourself. Now, this is the start of practical session where I'm going to showcase you so many technological things, so many technical keywords, and I'm going to walk you through the background or behind the scene things, how software works, how things are operating just beyond your eyes can see. So, let's dive into the practical sessions now. Perfect. So, over here, I'm going to showcase you how use like see softwares and how they actually work. So for example, over here we have one user interface, it's UI, which we operate on any browser, any sort of window or computer screen. Let's say for example we are taking Gmail over here. Now Gmail has multiple actions, so as soon as you open gmail.com, you log in into there, and then you see a couple of options. One button is called compose, so if you have to write a new mail, just click here and one window opens. You can simply write an email. You can delete some emails, you can move them, you can mark them favorite, and so on. In case if you wanted to go for a reply email, simply click here and it's going to reply to that particular email. Now, all these things are happening manually on computer screen. So you have to sit on a system, and then like you'll have to do all the commands, all the operations, all the functions. This is not automation way, right? So now I'm going to showcase you these softwares work at the backend, and obviously we are going to work with that backend to streamline the entire automation process to control things using the other softwares. So let's dive in. Let's see what is that. So there is a method called API, like how softwares can control other software, or how these interfaces are working with their backend softwares on Google Cloud or on Google servers. So here you can see all these interfaces are controlled or connected using something called API. API is a full form is application programming interface. Now imagine you're sitting in a restaurant and you wanted to order some food, you want to have some food, right? Now over here you order to a waiter, like you just place your wishes, what you want to eat, and that waiter takes that order to chef. Chef prepare the dish, give it to waiter, and then waiter will come back and deliver the dish to your table. So that's the entire way how generally a request goes to a server and it's getting being processed. Now over here, if we can directly work with this waiter and we can automate tasks on the waiter side, then we don't need directly to order like through a desk or through a table. We can straightforward give any instruction directly into his mind and he can get process things done. So over here, APIs work in the same way. Here, the waiter can be replaced with API. The end user is sitting on a browser. He opens the Gmail or maybe any other application, do some request, compose email, write something, reply, and so on, and it sent the request to API. Now, furthermore, APIs connect with the backend server, the backend system, and they furthermore do all the processing to send email, to structure it, and so on. And then they get back all the information to the user that email is sent or everything is done. Now, what if we can directly work with these API on the system itself? Now, if that has happened, then we can directly, without sitting on a computer interface, without using the UI of any software, we can straight up control all the software, all the repetitive tasks using the API itself. So how cool is that? Now I'm going to showcase you a live demonstration. I should have ideally asked you, do you want to see a live demonstration of this? So actually this was a presentation created on a workshop. Now since I'm recording it, it's already there. Send a yes in a comment. But in case if you are excited, just put yes in the comment or somewhere at the bottom of this video, and I am going to show you a live demonstration of APIs, how they work behind your browser, behind your screen, right? So let's dive in and let's see. Perfect. So here I'm on my Gmail. I simply opened my Gmail. I logged into this particular screen where I have composed all the email read as well as all of these things and maybe some sort of reply or more actions on every email. Now, what happens? Like, we are just operating this part. What if we have to automate this entire thing? So we should work with API, as I hope you remember that. Now, simply press F12 on your keyboard to get into the backend of this entire system. And once you do, there is something called network. So if you go to network, you see there are so many requests, so many connections happening behind this entire screen. So as soon as I click on, let's say this email, or maybe I go back to this particular inbox, see here how fast it is interacting with the Google servers. Let me capture one of the API. So let's say over here. Now this particular API wanted to request this particular URL. It's called, okay, let me just take this one. It's so fast. Perfect. So here you can see one of the example where the request was sent to this server called mail.google.com, and there is something static entire request ID is given. Along with that, there are a couple of request reviews or maybe some sort of load was also given, and it says like you should get some information from Gmail server. Now this thing get response from Gmail server, and here you see this entire function, all the codings are written back at the back of your screen. So you can't even see that, but that's happening actually. Once I click, let's say here, you can see the another vendor, see here. So all of the same requests are happening with Google, different servers, different functions and different things. But yeah, that is actually helping you to trigger and to see your emails on a screen. What if we can directly work with this code, with this entire structure? So we don't have to even interact with this entire screen with the UI, and any software, any other computer can directly control your Gmail, right? So let's dive in. So this entire part is actually called API, right? Application Programming Interface. And these APIs are actually working with your different applications. Now, we are going to explore how the APIs look like, what the API is all about, and how we can control them. So you must be wondering, do I have to work with these APIs? I have to get every information from here and then figure out what has to be done? The answer is no. So most of the good software vendors or software manufacturers, creators, have built an API documentation where they facilitate their users, any sort of development friendly people, to control or to operate their softwares in automation mode. So let's go over here and just type in on Google Gmail API. So now over here you see these are the Gmail API, and in case if you wanted to control API directly from any of your programming language or things, you can simply go to, let's say, create draft, send email, and this is how the entire thing works. So for example, I'm on to send email API at this point, and this is how the API document look like. Obviously it is not human readable, I would say. It's or maybe it's not a common man readable, it's purely a technical language. So this is written to Java. The same thing can be written to Python language as well. And if you wanted to work with APIs, you'll have to go through this entire Python code. You'll have to write it into some programming servers, and then you can control the send email, draft, upload attachment, and so on. The first question was where we can find APIs. Either you can go for a Google search, or in case, let me just show you one more example over here. In case if you go to any particular vendor's website, or let's say any particular software website, let's say I go for monday.com. Now Monday is a popular platform for different kind of task management and the project management tool. Now if you land on monday.com main website, you can simply scroll down and you will see something here that's called developers or maybe APIs. So there is a dedicated section most of the software providers give, is called API or developers. Simply click on this and you will land on the entire API documentation. So from there you can figure out which particular API, which particular action you want to perform using automation. So these are some destinations where you can easily figure out how to access the API for any other system. So these are two methods where we can go for company website or we can go for a Google search. Now, how the APIs look like. So in general, APIs have different endpoints and different actions. As I said, like you can get email in Gmail, or you can send an email, you can save draft, you can delete emails, and so on. So same actions can be done using API. Over here, let's say for example, I took Zoho CRM. Now you can see on this screen, we have different kind of methods. So it's called get method, post method, put method, delete, and so on. So get is like to get some records, post it to update any record inside server or database of that particular application. We can update any record using put method, or delete records. So primarily these are the main four actions which generally anyone perform on a software UI interface. And the same thing can be done using API. So API documentation look like this. Now, generally APIs has a specific endpoint for each action. So it can define, like in case of UI, you click on a particular button, you have one button place somewhere. The same thing, APIs has a specific endpoint for each of the actions. So let's say if you want to compose an email, simply go for that particular endpoint of compose email, and it is going to compose that mail. Now, in case of API, we cannot write things on plain language. So we have to write it on JSON. Now JSON is a kind of data structure or kind of a language which APIs and computer understand really well. And it's a more structured way of putting data into a system. So over here, this is the example how the API responds. And this is entire data structure, what JSON returns. So as I said, APIs can do wonders. It can create record, retrieve, view them, or even update them, delete, search, list, and even there is something called webhooks. So in case if any event happens inside your software, you can also get notified or trigger any automation workflow at any other system. Now, there is a big roadblock in this entire automation flow. So far you saw what APIs are, how they look like, and how we can work with them. So primarily, we can work with API using Python, Java, or these kind of languages. And since you guys or most of the people are common man, they have not any technical knowledge or any sort of technical language expertise. So that becomes a big roadblock and we cannot work with the API. We cannot automate our system. So what's the way? The solution is automation platforms that we are going to look into the next video.